Thank you. The next question, how do you see Coos County in 10 years? And they bullet points, development, education, environment. Brandi, you get to start again.
Can you repeat the three you'd like me to touch on?
How do you see Coos County in 10 years? Development, education, environment.
Development. We are poised to grow. We've got housing coming in, we've got shopping centers coming in, but what we don't have coming in is a lot of industry. That's where we need to focus. We need production. We need people producing things that can be exported out of the county to bring outside dollars in. That development is going to mean that we need to support businesses. So I've run into business owners all the time that they maybe are getting hit with a fine from the state because the wheelchair ramp has a lip that's a 1/4 inch too high, and the state gives them no guidelines on how to fix that. We have to deal with that type of stuff better here locally. That's something commissioners can help connect people with people who can help them, advise them. So really make sure that those roadblocks they're running into get smoothed out a little bit so that business owners can do what they do best, employ people to make money to support their families. Education wise, our schools are a big part of our budget. They get a good amount of money. Here in our county, it sounds like people are pretty happy with the education that their children are getting, aside from one complaint that I keep hearing, and that is a tolerance for covert abuse, otherwise known as bullying. I've had quite a few parents approach me about that. That is something that I don't see a commissioner getting super involved in other than to connect people so that the school, the teachers, the parents and the schools can work that out amongst them. Environmentally, we have ecotourism coming on the way. Now we have to balance that with harvesting our forests because our general fund needs that money versus promoting ecotourism, which brings people in and they spend an enormous amount of money throughout the rest of the county. All of those are poised to move in the right direction. And I think with a good connector that puts the right people together, it'll come together.
John, same question.
Thank you. Those are three really important issues that we as a county and even more so we as a state really need to solve. In terms of development, our state has one of the worst business-friendly reputations in the nation. If our regulations don't cause people to avoid coming here or leave here, then the way we tax people and businesses does. So we've got to work to have a more business-friendly profile in order to be competitive with the other states in the nation. I looked at some statistics yesterday that showed in terms of business departures from the state, the only state in the nation worse than Oregon is Hawaii. And so we have to be able to attract businesses. Education-wise, somehow or another, our county is ranked, I think, 35th in the state in graduation rates. And mind you, this is in a state where 35th out of 36 in a state that is 48th out of 50. So we have to concentrate, I think, from the bottom up, teaching our children how to read. If they can't read, they can't learn other things. So it's pretty basic. Environment. We have a wonderful environment. We want to protect the environment, but we also have to be willing to figure out ways that we can have both a decent environment and jobs. And we've not done a very good job of that yet.
Okay, Rick, the question is, how do you see Coos County in 10 years? Development, education, environment.
I kind of agree with Brandi. we are poised for some development and we have room to grow here. We have a wonderful area. We just got to become more attractive to some industries and get them to come here and bring some good paying jobs. Some of that, like John said, has to do with state regulations. We are limited somewhat by the state. They do control a lot. Education, I think we need to raise our education standards back up to an acceptable level. I have grandchildren that graduated high school with modified diplomas that can't read or write, and I think that's a travesty. We're not doing our children a very good service allowing that to happen. So we've got some improvement to make there. Again, some of that is state regulated, unfortunately. And the environment, we gotta be able to balance our environmental impact with our industrial developments. That can be a tough one. But like in the forest lands, it's been proven it can happen. The forests have become a pretty good renewable crop. We know how to replant. We know what to do there. Thank you.
Would you like the question read again?
One more time so I can make sure I get all the parts.
How do you see Coos County in 10 years? Development, education, environment.
Okay. I have a pretty aspirational view of where I'd like to see us headed as a community, as a whole in the county. I'd really like to see, what I want to see in 10 years is a thriving community where we have multiple generations able to live here comfortably and sustainably and being able to have great paying jobs and not to have to move away to chase those things with their families like a lot of people are having to do now. And that would involve, kids in schools from Powers to Myrtle Point, Coquille, Bend, in Marshfield, North Bend, everywhere. When I go to a Marshfield High School graduation, there's only 3/4 or half of the gym floors full of kids. It used to be completely slam packed and you couldn't hardly get in if you didn't have a ticket, which I want everybody to be able to go to graduations, don't get me wrong, but I think that we need more kids back in our area and more families. And we can do that by developing some industry. I'm a supporter of the container port project. I want it to be done responsibly environmentally and also be able to create some really good jobs. I've been working for some time on a 100% fish initiative to use fish waste that's already being tossed aside or used for certain other purposes for value-added products such as fish leather and collagens and nutraceuticals and all of these things. It's being done in other parts of the world. We can do it here. And these are high-dollar companies that pay great wages. We need to diversify our timber economy. We're already seeing signs with the pellet mill on the waterfront, but we can do more. We can use our forest waste slash to create char and other products. It's just a matter of how do we get there. And once we have that, we have a good public safety system that keeps everybody safe. We have a functional county and city governments, and our schools have what they need.
The next question is kind of a long one. Coos County has long depended on timber revenue from O&C and Coos Bay Wagon Road lands. The Department of Interior and BLM are now looking at increasing sustained yield timber harvest. As commissioner, what steps will you take to make sure Coos County benefits from this opportunity while protecting sustainability?
Am I on?
You are.
Okay, good. I mentioned this before. I think we possibly have, for the first time in about 40 or 50 years, an opportunity to increase the harvest on the ONC lands and the Coos Bay Wagon Road lands, from which we used to receive significant county revenues. I didn't check this calculation, but I was told that in today's, what we used to get from those lands in today's dollars would be something like $25 million. I don't know if that's right or not, but you don't need that much, but it would help to have a bit more than we're getting now. Already, the BLM is moving its annual harvest up inch by inch on both the O&C lands and the Wagon Road lands. On the Wagon Road lands, we get payments in lieu of taxes, so what they take in revenue doesn't make any difference. But on the O&C lands, each little increase helps a lot. In times past, we have received 50% of our share of the harvest revenues from the O&C lands. The original legislation regarding O&C lands was that the counties would get 75%. Years ago, the counties gave 25 of that 75 back so the BLM could improve on their management on their lands. This next year, we will get that back. That will help. But the real help will come if there can be an increase in the harvest on the O&C lands. And there are certainly ways that we can increase harvest from what it is without significant harm to the environment. In fact, perhaps we could help the environment.
Would you like that question read again?
Yes, please.
Coos County has long depended on timber revenue from O&C and Coos Bay Wagon Road lands. The Department of Interior and BLM are now looking at increasing sustained yield timber harvest. As commissioner, what steps will you take to make sure Coos County benefits from this opportunity while protecting sustainability?
I would have to get in contact with the people that are handling these things, make some connections there and push for our part. Like John said, hopefully everything goes the way it's looking like it's headed for that increase. And again, that could change with the next administration, depending on who gets in office. We can't totally count on that, but we have to make connections with people in the BLM and Department of Interior and see what we can do to make sure we get what's supposed to come to us.
Rick Osborn?
I took notes the last time you read it, so I can go ahead. So you don't have to read that whole thing again. So timber harvest and that renewable resource is a near and dear topic to my heart. I grew up in a logging family. It, put shoes on my feet and food in my belly for most of my life. So it's pretty important to me. I think that, as was said before, I think it'll be beneficial to have greater percentage of the revenue going to the counties, which is where it should have been all along. And then also increased harvest within a sustainably managed system is very useful. I have a feeling that the new changes and how much logging is projected to happen could get tied up in courts for a bit. But so I'm cautiously optimistic with that. But I also think that any extra revenue that comes in from that, aside from continuing to maintain services of the county and grow some of them back, should be such as adding pods to the jail and things like that. I think that we need to also be mindful of using extra funding from that where possible to expand resources that can generate more money. So it's an investment and not an expense. It could add up to purchasing a few more acres of timberland for the county forest, or expanding some of our parks holdings and things like that. But I think we need to be multifaceted in how we look at things. I also support the potential for an agreement with the tribal government and an MOU on the Wagon Road lands to try to make more use of that.
Would you like the question again?
I've got it. Thank you. When it comes to increasing harvests and maintaining sustainability, we're on a really good track right now to do that. Our forests are being well managed. The increases are going to be managed in the same framework that we already have been. We're not going to see the clear cutting that was done through the 60s and 70s. There are protections for waterways that we never had before. And so we can move forward confidently knowing that those parts of our ecosystem will be protected and respected. The really great thing about managing these forests through timber harvest is the roads through the forests. So when you have a major forest fire, you need to access that fire. Coos County is one of the reasons I love it here is because of all of our roadways through our forests. Thank you, logging companies. It's great for recreation. I love using those roads for hunting. But another great thing about those roads is it gives us access to potential fires to fight them. So when we're looking at that, looking at managing lands, we're also managing fire risk. Trees can also be harvested in a way that minimizes future fire risk. One of you had mentioned parks. Our parks are wildly profitable in the grand scheme of county profitability. So we have an opportunity to, while our forests are growing and they're in that in-between stage, that 45-year in-between stage, we have an opportunity to profit off of parks, people that love to spend their time in these forests. So I think we have a lot of great opportunity ahead of us. The commissioner is the perfect person to put all of those people, connecting all of those people that come to work together to create something that is wildly profitable for the county in the future.
Thank you. The next question, what are the structural barriers to economic development in this county, and how would you try to overcome them? Rick, that's your question first. Do you want to hear it again?
Sure.
What are the structural barriers to economic development in the county, and how would you try to overcome them?
I'm not sure I totally understand the question, but seems to me regulation could be one. We could probably do some things with regulation to help people want to come here more and build or develop some industry. I'm not. That's about where I'm at with that.
Okay.
And so a lot of my work has been in economic development on the public affairs side of things with my business. And there's a few structural barriers that we face here. One of them is just flat out geography and where we are compared to the I-5 corridor and the major rail lines and those kinds of things. I do believe that this has always been a place that made things, and we manufactured things and we shipped things out to other places, and we generate revenue from that. And so in the past, it's always been the timber industry and fishing. I'd like to see that continue, but also we need to expand our operations at the port, and we need to and then the rail line needs to be rehabbed. And that's part of my reason for support of the port project, is because it would be to the rail line and then to the valley to get on to destinations elsewhere to be able to ship products out. I think that we can continue to grow our tourism. That's a pretty easy one from a regulation standpoint. I also think that regulation in the state has been a bit of a barrier to a lot of things that we're trying to do here. And we can do things responsibly and still meet the regulations that we have. We can also adjust some of the regulations within the county. I would need to go in and look at what we could do there to try to encourage business growth and bringing people here to do business and create those jobs that we need to have kids in the schools and a thriving economy and a good healthcare system and all of those things. And so it will also take some work at the legislative level. Now, yeah, the commissioners don't pass the laws at the state level, but they do can have a significant voice in the legislature in terms of being able to advocate for the needs of their counties and those kinds of things to be able to generate the change that we want to see for our community and get things done that we want to see done.
The structural barriers to economic development is actually a big topic that I've been struggling with already as we're looking at a USDA meatpacking plant. One of our structural barriers is geography, like Rick said, but kind of in a different way. It's the environment. So when we're ranching cattle and goats, We live in a muddy area, so it can be challenging to raise up those animals. We need more grassland if we're going to grass feed and grass finish those animals here. And again, like what was mentioned, then when it comes to exporting, we've got Highway 42. It's very long and windy, and truckers, it's not their favorite. So those make getting things out of the county to get outside money in a little bit of a challenge. Now, like what was mentioned before, the PCIP, that intermodal port project. So the Port of Coos Bay is something a little bit different from this port project that's coming in. This would be ships coming in, dropping containers onto a rail line that then goes to Eugene, and those containers are opened up and goods are distributed. Those containers are not going back empty. So we have an opportunity now to begin branding and marketing our exportable products overseas. This is a huge export opportunity for us. So that is going to help us overcome some of that barrier that way. We also need to push leaders, for leaders in Salem, who support business, not just say they support business. We need to look at leaders who are demonstrating that they make Oregon easy to do business with. I have yet to see it. I'm going to keep looking, but that's what we have to expect. We also need the manpower to process permits quickly. When businesses want to get up and running, they need their paperwork done as soon as possible.
I think our geography presents a structural barrier to economic development. We don't have the land to accommodate large facilities. And if we do have the land, or where we do, it's often in forest or agricultural use now, and there are restrictions that the state has imposed on using those resource lands for economic development. So we need to work with the state to help overcome that part of it. I think we have to be realistic that we're kind of off the mainstream, and so that there may not always be a plethora of opportunities coming our way in terms of people that want to locate their business here. So I think when we do have someone that is interested, that we ought to do our very best to accommodate them and to make it possible for them to locate here. We've had several instances here in recent decades where businesses have wanted to locate here, but we haven't made them welcome. We can't decide who comes here. We can help them decide to come here, but it's going to be their decision. So we really have to work with the people that have wanted to come here. And I'm sorry we've missed a few, but looking ahead, I'm sure we can find some balances so that we can accommodate the development and in such a way that our economy is not ruined, not badly affected.
Thank you. The next question. Coos County faces increasing risks from natural disasters, such as forest fires and coastal flooding. Is the county doing enough to mitigate these risks, and what would you like to see done? And Rick Osborn, that's yours first.
No, throw me a softball. Natural disaster has to be something that's on our mind here. We're we're isolated from a lot of the major population corridors. And so that creates a series of challenges. Like our power system, if there's a good wildfire, not good, but a bad wildfire in the coastal range, we're in a lot of trouble when it comes to our electricity because we're on the end of a grid. I mean, I think that we need to, and then of course there's a discussion about a Cascadia subduction zone. So we need to be mindful in where we're building and how we operate so that our hospitals and new structures and schools and all of those things tend to be out of those tsunami zone areas and things that would be affected so that they're available as community centers. We also need to, and this is another area where I think industry can come in and be an important player is the generation of power here locally in our community. If you're using it for years ago when we had the mill out on the North Spit, as I understand it, there was a power plant out there that then if the power went out, they could supply actually power to the hospital and things like that. We need some of those things back so that we can be self-sufficient and self-sustaining in the event that the worst happens. And it could be any number of things. And I understand that. And I don't live my life being completely afraid of all of that, but we need to be mindful and prepared for that eventuality. And how do we prepare well enough that we are sustainable if and when something like that happens?
Brandi, same question. Would you like to hear it again?
No, I think I've got it. For natural disasters, as Rick mentioned, we're really looking at fire and earthquake. With fire, we manage our forests. We have roads through our forests. So if something does happen to come about, we can access that area quite easily. We can do more of that, keeping those roads maintained. Unfortunately, and this is going to be maybe something some people don't want to hear, those locked gates that Rick has mentioned we need to provide access to has decreased instances of fires. So working with people and more enforcement, you need more money for more enforcement. So that's a hard thing. But it's hard to argue that we should open our forests up when it increases fire hazard. And when it increases fire hazard out, like in a place where I live out in Fairview, you have a situation where you could lock people in and they would have no way out. So those are things that we really need to look at, those plans for these places that are vulnerable to being trapped, and make sure that we have exit strategies, and we have first responders like the Fairview Fire Department where I live, who could immediately respond to those fires and get them out before they become something terrible. The education component, making sure that people understand why they're not supposed to burn during fire season. We have a lot of fresh faces moving to Coos County, and quite frequently we have to remind people that you can't slash burn in a 90-degree windy, sunny day. So making sure that the public knows that. And for earthquakes, we are building the facilities outside of our flood zones. The other thing we can do is talk to people about how they can personally prepare and be ready. So how much water they need to have on hand, the food that they need to have on hand, and other supplies, so that our individuals are doing what they can to take care of themselves if disaster strikes as well.
I don't think the Lord's been particularly kind to us in terms of making it easy to take care of ourselves here if we have a natural disaster. We're miles away from our highway arterials. We have lots of rivers, lots of streams, lots of bridges. It's going to be a problem if we have a bad problem. We're doing what we can. Coos Fire Protective Association, as far as fire goes, I don't think there's a finer organization in the state. They get called all over the nation to help with fires, and they've done a whale of a good job here in preventing fires and limiting their spread when we do have a fire. The county emergency department has plans. I don't know that we have adequate funding to appropriately fund those plans. The educational component is going to be very, very important. And to a large degree, I think personal preparation is going to be one of the most important things that we as individuals and that we as governments can advocate for.
Rick? Do you want to hear the question?
Yeah, please.
Coos County faces increasing risk from natural disasters, such as forest fires and coastal flooding. Is the county doing enough to mitigate those risks? And what would you like to see done?
As far as fires go, I think the best thing we could do is be more mindful in our forests, and I too come from a timber family and nobody takes care of the forest better than loggers. So I think we can get them back out there and fire risk would be, more minimal. One of the biggest things, as Rick mentioned, that we face here that isn't talked about as much anymore is the Cascadia subduction earthquake. When I first moved home to the area, that was talked about a lot. And that wasn't all that many years ago. It was about 14 years ago. We had an organization that was more prominent than it is now, and that's the CERT organization. And that's made up of volunteers of the county. And I think the county could propagate more volunteers to help in cases of natural disasters like this. People are trained to help direct people where to go, what to do. We had classes. We were doing a lot of things back then that I don't see as much anymore. You don't hear it on the radio as much anymore. They used to have a lot more training. And I think we could do that stuff. We need to be prepared. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's when. Thank you.
The next question, how can Coos County improve services for seniors, such as transportation, health services, food assistance? Brandi, we're back to you.
Increasing our services for seniors is obviously a big responsibility because we have an increasing senior population. Coos County demographics are it's kind of shaped like a muffin top, where we've got our young and poor, and then our older population. It presents some unique economic challenges. So a lot of these people are relying heavily on Medicaid and Medicare services. This is where an overlap of services is going to become very important, pulling people who are having non-emergency situations out of the emergency services. So where we have people routinely calling for an ambulance because they need to make it to the doctor, maybe we can have a car service that provides those trips back and forth. We do have quite a few programs that provide meals for services for seniors, and I do know those have decreased over the years with a decrease in funding. So there's also opportunity for community members to join together. A lot of these problems are going to need to be solved through volunteerism. In short, I don't believe the government is coming to save us. When it comes to taking care of our own, this means we as neighbors are going to have to reach out to each other and say, I'm starting a food pantry. What can you donate? The people who have done these things, they're wildly successful. So when we look at creating services, both we want to see where we can overlap and save some money. We want to see where we can donate and help each other out. Creating a social safety net of neighbors that all help each other and work together. And that really is what seniors need, because one of the biggest risks to seniors is disconnection. They're being isolated from the rest of the population. So one of my solutions is really to bring people together.
John, same question?
Thank you. Yes, through Coos Health and Wellness, I believe we have some really good programs that can help the senior population. There are a lot of food assistance programs available through the churches, largely here, and through ORCA in the county. I know that Coos Health and Wellness has a rental assistance program available. And certainly for transportation, we have CCAT, Coos Curry, can't remember what it stands for, but it's public transportation. And they do a very good job. I think they're underutilized, and so there's some capacity there left.
Rick, same question. How can Coos County improve services for seniors?
One of the things I think we could do better, I know there's programs out there for seniors to help. Let's educate them more on where to go, who to call. how to access this stuff. We could advertise this stuff a little better. So, people know what to do in case of need. And like Brandi said, I believe getting out and getting to know your neighbors, you know, try to get your community, be more involved in your communities. I think those are some of the best things we can do. Don't leave these people alone. Thank you.
Well, I think this is a complicated issue, and there are a lot of things that are happening already with Coos Health and Wellness. We have CCAT, but I think, you know, you can always do better. And I think that there have to be some areas where we can do better. Like my core thing is, you know, if you have multiple generations of people here and they're, you know, an senior person and their, you know, kids and grandkids and stuff are here, maybe they're more likely to be able to help out with a lot of that stuff and take care of each other as a family by keeping those family units together. I like to see more. We have a lot of local food production right now, whether it's dairy products and some farms and things and ranches and things like that. If we could keep more of that local food in the local food system and get into some of these folks, that would be really helpful. Focusing on prevention through Coos Health and Wellness in terms of, like, you know, making sure people are getting to the doctor and that kind of stuff. So nobody of any age is going to the emergency room because they haven't been taking care of themselves or don't know, you know, what they needed to do to be on a path to health. Nutritional programs through Coos Health and Wellness exist, and I think that we could expand upon those, and also continuing to partner with local food banks. I have an office over at Pony Village Mall, and it's both touching and tragic at the same time. The number of cars that I see every Thursday stacked up all through the mall parking lot to get food from the Pelican Harbor Food Bank. Not because it's heartwarming because people are helping people. It's also really devastating that there are so many people who need that kind of help here. And I think we need to find a way to fix that.
Thank you. How are we doing for time? Do we have time for one more question? One more question. Okay, I'm going to skip that one. If elected, which county services would you most like to see improved? And what are your ideas for making those improvements? And John, it's your turn first.
Oh, my heavens. To be frank, we have a wonderful team at the county. We have strong department heads, strong elected officials, amazing staff. What they can do, I think, is severely limited by lack of county funding. So let me repeat the question here.
If elected, which county services would you most like to see improved? And what are your ideas for making those improvements?
Well, I think we're inching by with most everything other than public safety. We need to have a public safety system, and it takes a system. We can't just add jail space and expect miracles. We also have to balance that with enough assistant district attorneys to process or to punish them. We have to have adequate patrol staff to catch the bad actors, and we have to have adequate juvenile and parole and probation department. So it takes a balance. I think that is where our biggest shortfall is. Our roads department is limited. Used to have 55 people. Today they have 29. But very few people get killed by running into a pothole. I think forestry's doing a good job. Solid waste doing a good job. Treasury department does a good job. I think I'll get back to the public safety group of departments are where we most need the help. And the help, we're so skinny every place else, we can't cut and still have voting. We can't cut people and still pay our bills and pay our staff. Thank you. Sorry. Thanks.
Rick, the same question. If elected, which county services would you most like to see improved? And what are your ideas for making those improvements?
Well, like I said before, the sheriff's office, the jail, and the DA's office. Those are the priority in my mind. We got to find a way to generate some better revenue for them, or even maybe enlist some volunteers to help out there, or reserve officers. There's a lot of ideas out there. Those are some that come to mind, and you know, or finding a way to protect the funding for the sheriff's department, jail, and DA. Unfortunately, if we took that out of the general fund to give them their own fund, that's going to mean another tax, which I'm really not a fan of, but what do we want more? We want to feel safe in our homes and have a place to put criminals and DAs to prosecute them. These are all questions we have to answer and find ways to do it. So that's the priority for me, and finding the funding, that's where I'm at.
Rick?
Well, everything the county does is valuable to somebody, or else there wouldn't be a service there. But I do believe that at the end of the day, the most important thing that we need to be focusing on with the state of our county right now is public safety. That includes the jail. That includes finding a way to increase patrols. I live out in the county, so I don't get city police either. And then, you know, you've got a whole system around that, as already been said, district attorney's office, you've got your parole and probation, your juvenile system. All of those things function around the jail. And it's not a system, it's not necessarily a situation where I want to lock people up unnecessarily, but we need more beds to be able to provide the stick that goes with the carrot on the parole and probation programs, on different types of mental health and drug treatment court and all of those kinds of things. I also think a way to bolster that, other than finding new ways to fund all of that and making that a priority, is partnerships. There's already work underway for some of this stuff. Bay Area First Step putting a sobering center in the jail. That takes pressure off of the jail and law enforcement. Getting mental health more involved in some of these first response situations. It's not fair to our law enforcement officers to have to behave as mental health counselors. That's not their area of specialty. That's not their expertise. They should be focused on doing what they're good at. And we should have more counselors out, being able to deal with people who are having a crisis, rather than, to keep them out of jail and maybe try to find a way to do that in a better way.
Brandi?
So this gives me an opportunity to talk about something I'm very, very passionate about. Which county services would you like to see improved? Rehabilitative. So yes, the jail. Yes, substance abuse, but also behavioral rehabilitation, because every single person who goes through that jail needs behavioral rehabilitation to reduce recidivism. When we reduce recidivism, we need fewer patrols. We have greater public safety, but we need to get at the root cause. And we do that by overlapping services, by taking these people who belong inpatient, whether it be the jail is just a type of inpatient services, but they're not getting the services. So how can we change that? Can we use jail space to admit people into behavioral rehabilitation? I believe we can, and there may be challenges. They have to be surmountable, because if we look at the data and we say this will work and anyone gets in our way, we have to move them out of our way, because we have to do what's right for our people. And what's right is giving them an actual opportunity to truly become rehabilitated. Whether that means they need 3 months away from the environment they're in to actually kick that drug habit and learn a new way to live, or whether it be a person who is from generational poverty and doesn't know work habits, and they need a place to go where they're taught every day how to get up and go to work and earn for themselves, so that when we release these people, we're releasing a productive member of society. I believe we have an opportunity to do this. We just need someone with a creative mind who is accustomed to building systems that works for people.
This is the time now for closing statements. Each candidate has 2 minutes to close. I ran out of words there. Each candidate has 2 minutes, and we will start with you, Rick.
Wasn't expecting to be first, but that's okay. I'd just like to say that I care about the county. That's what I'm in this for. Never expected to be a politician, but I think we need something different down here to move us forward. I think I bring some good ideas to the table. I do have some leadership experience, some management experience. And I'm in it for the people of the county. I firmly believe county commissioners are public servants. That's what we're elected to do, is represent the people of the county as best we can with whatever it is that they need done. We should be very in tune with the people, get out and talking to people more. I live in the North County, and I bet I can count on the fingers of one hand and not use them all, how many times one of the commissioners has come to listen to our concerns. Now I know they have open door policies, they have office hours, there's meetings all of us can attend, but all of us have one thing that gets in the way, and that's our lives, that's our jobs, things like that. So I think it's part of the responsibility of a commissioner to get out and see the public and listen to their concerns and see what you can do about those. And when elected, that's what I plan to do. I'm not going to lose touch with the citizens here in the county. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm a, fourth generation Coos County, working on 5 and 6. My kids here, my grandkids are here. So I really have a focus on not just now, but what's the future of our county look like? Will they have a thriving community with good public safety and good jobs that they can go to and be able to stay here and raise their kids and someday take care of their old granddad? I really care about this county. Like, this is not just an occupation for me. This is, or a career or anything like that. This is something that I hold dear. I think I said before, every time I leave to go to school, to find jobs, to do whatever, I always want to come back here, and I want to see this place be a place where people like me can stay here or be able to come back because there's opportunities for them, because they know that they can put their kids in great schools and their kids will be able to thrive, and we can stay here and not have to leave. That's a lot of the drive for me behind doing all of this. It's not about holding a political position or amassing power or any of that kind of garbage. I just care about working for the people of Coos County, and that's all I want to do.
Thank you all for your time. As you go to cast your vote, you've heard a lot about us. You're probably going to go home and hopefully do a lot more digging and learn more about us and learn more about our history and what we can bring to the table. I want you to think about building a team of commissioners. So you're building a team that's going to go to bat for you. Who has what skills? Who will work the best together? Who is most inclined to push for the solutions we need? We do have tough times ahead of us. They're not insurmountable, again, but we are looking at tough times. And when you look at that, are you looking at the person who is going to fight for you? When we push back against bad policies written in Salem, who do you think is going to push back the hardest? Who do you think is going to get things done? Who do you think is going to collaborate best? Build teams, motivate people, get people excited for change, communicate. Those are all things that you need to think about when you choose the team of 3 commissioners that you're going to be putting together. We've already got 1 lockdown. So now you're picking 2 more on that team. What I bring is a coaching mindset. I take people from point A to point B. I teach them the habits they need to change to become their best self. And I love my job. I watch people blossom. It is the greatest joy of my life. To have the opportunity to come into Coos County and steward people in the same way that I coach, steward organizations so that they become the best versions of themselves, I could think of no greater honor. For me, this is not about politics. This is not about power. I'm a bit of an introvert and I'm very uncomfortable right here, right now. But the opportunity to do so much for Coos County is irresistible. I love coaching, and what I do for my clients, I can absolutely do for this county. So if you vote for me, you're absolutely getting my best.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to make it clear that no one person is going to turn this county around. It takes a team. And I'd like to talk about some of the things we've done as a team during my tenure. We lowered, well, first, when I came here, the state had identified our county as one that was at risk of financial failure, more than at risk, on the verge of that. We got that taken care of in 2 years. We were taken off that list. In the meantime, we were able to reduce our county tax rate. I'm not talking about tax rates that pertain to schools, cities, hospitals, all that. Just that the county uses, that you pay to manage the county. It has been reduced during the time I've been here for $1.58 per $1,000 of assessed value to $1.08. Not often we get tax reductions, and that's a tax reduction of about a third. We've kept the county lean and serious. At one time, we had more than 500 employees. Today, we have about 330, and we've been trimming that and still managing to function. We've expanded our county forest. It generates about $3 million a year of profits, which is an important addition to the less than $7 million a year we get from county taxes. We've increased that by about 20%. We've made parks and solid waste self-supporting. They don't require taxes. We have generated a lot of non-tax revenue sources, well over $3 million. I'd ask you to think when you vote that you think about what you're really voting for is that you're hiring a group of people, a triad of commissioners to manage this county. So think of the experience, think of the background, think of what's been done before. Thank you.
At this time, you have been so respectful and followed our ground rules and not applauded or cheered or anything. This is the time when you can give your candidates a round of applause and appreciation.